Being a dad isn't always easy, but it's the best thing I ever did. I'm constantly improving myself to be the best dad I can be through fitness, nutrition, mindset, and lifestyle. As fathers, we pass on many things to our children, such as our mindset, our habits, our attitude, and what we've learned along the way. Each of these will shape who our children are and who they will become. The Warrior Dad's mission is to help you become the healthiest version of yourself, to hone your edge, and to live with purpose. My name is Jim Bertamy, and this is the Warrior Dads Podcast. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in for another episode of the Warrior Dads Podcast. Today, I'm bringing on Thomas DeLauer, also known as, well, in my opinion, also known as the expert in the ketogenic and intermittent fasting world. He is a wealth of knowledge. His videos are super informative. Sometimes I have to watch him 2 or 3 times to get what he said and really think about it, because he knows this stuff inside and out so much. He's actually helped me think about things in a different way and implement some of this stuff into my lifestyle as well, and test things out. So I'm really excited to get him on the show. It's been a while trying to make it work, but we finally got it worked out, and I'm happy to bring him on. So Thomas DeLauer is an author and health expert who is most known for his educational knowledge around the ketogenic diet and intermittent fasting. Thomas went through his own transformation, which, by the way, was absolutely crazy. And you see the before and after pictures. It's ridiculous. Back in 2011, and completely changed his body and his lifestyle. He now helps millions of people optimize their health and families through diet and lifestyle. Thomas, thanks so much for coming on the Warrior Dads Podcast.
Jim, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have a new son now, so congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, 17 months. So he's
all over Instagram.
Yeah, I know. Probably gotta tone it down.
But it's great that you got him outside. You guys are so active. You, your wife, and your son are so active together. I mean, that's awesome. He's getting exposed to what living a healthy lifestyle should be, and obviously seeing what a fit dad looks like, and great example, right?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a blast, though. I mean, it gives me a reason to do it. It gives me a reason to do what I do.
Yeah. So just give a brief background for anybody that may not know who you are. Just give a brief background of kind of what led you to this point that you're at right now.
Yeah. So, I was previously a corporate healthcare exec, so I had an ancillary lab services company. I worked, pretty waist deep in the healthcare world, managed a lot of physicians. And during that time, I was extremely overweight, and just kind of going to paraphrase it here, but essentially the doctors that I had managed were very high profile, very good quality doctors that took a lot of pride in their attention to detail. And they noticed that me, being someone that was managing them on a lot of sides, was very unhealthy. So they kind of took me under their wing, taught me some things in terms of inflammation, the ketogenic diet, before the keto diet was ever popular, and basically assisted me in losing 100 pounds in terms of just arming me with knowledge. And from there, my world was flipped upside down. I realized once I got healthy that I didn't even want to be in the healthcare world anymore, because healthcare is really, not to sound cliche, but healthcare is sick care, quote unquote, and I wanted to get out of that. So I got sort of into the fitness world. And after my transformation, I was leaner, but not in super good shape. I told my wife, I said, I'm going to be on the covers of some magazines. I'm just going to put my mind to it and do it. So 12,
wow, that was actually a goal for you.
It was a side goal. I was just I kind of got out of this healthcare world that I was in. We went through an acquisition. I was able to get out of it in a good way. And I just said, yeah, let's, shift focus here. And then because of the sort of radical transformation from being super overweight to being on the covers of magazines, mainstream media sort of picked up on that, got more attention. And that's sort of how my brand was built. And then I realized at that point that I think my gift to the world, in a sense, is the ability to articulate scientific and more complex physiology in ways that people understand and make it fun. So I set out on the mission to say, I am going to be the one that bridges the gap between health and fitness, because there's such a divergence between what health is and what fitness is. And I wanted people to understand that there can be a gap that can be bridged there. But I really truly wanted to make health and self-experimentation fun. I wanted people to learn that you can make these changes to your body, and sure, it can be amazing and life-changing, and it can be emotional, but it can also be really, really fun. And it doesn't have to be just this textbook approach to science. So with that mission in mind, YouTube just blew up for me in the last couple of years. I'm at about 1.4 million subscribers now, and only really been actively pumping the channel for a year and a half or just under 2 years. So it's,
Wow.
so it's growing very, very fast, and it's just amazing to do what I do. And now I've been able to, I just got back 2 days ago from speaking at the Air Force Academy. I'm working with U.S. Special Forces on, their diet approaches for missions and it's great. It's the things that I'm doing now to kind of have a trickle down effect on society, but also our military and our law enforcement and first responders. It's just epic. So that's where I'm at now, and life is good. I'm actually achieving some of these philanthropic steps that I had set out to do originally too. So
that's awesome. Congratulations. I didn't know you were working with them. That's great.
Yeah.
So you're helping all these people, and how old is your son now?
17 months.
Right. 17 months. So
yeah.
17 months ago, he comes into the world. How did everything change for you? I mean, your transformation for everybody listening right now, your transformation is epic. I mean, you see the before and after pictures. I mean, you looked like, a linebacker, right? I mean,
yeah.
Or like a center or something like that. I mean, you were big, and, now, I mean, you look amazing. I don't know, what body fat percentage you are, but it's, it's not really even about, what body fat you are, but it's just like the way you look right now, going into fatherhood, having the child come into the world. How did that change anything, or did it change anything? I mean, obviously you guys are really active. Your wife looks like she's in shape, and you guys, I'm sure, kind of work out together, but kind of explain or paint the picture of what that looked like. How did your life change? How did it not change for people? Because I feel like that's kind of the downfall, where that's where people start to, I've had other guys come on, and even the owner of Dad Bod Apparel, he came on, and the joke was that some of his friends were like, oh, get ready for your dad bod. And he's like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to accept that. I'm not going to lower the standard for myself just because I have a kid coming to the world. So I'd love your take on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's very similar for me. I mean, it's been a driving force for me. I mean, some people, when they have kids, they don't realize until the kids are much older that like they're leading by an example, and that's not. And they think it's all about the culturing and the nurturing and everything like that, which is important. But no, I mean, like I know enough physiology and neurology to know that, I mean, they're making like 500 neural connections every second up until 3 years old. I mean, that's every second, man. So, I mean, it's like every single thing that I am doing, this kid is taking in, absorbing, and it's building his life. Mm-hmm. And people don't realize that until it's too late, because it's like that whole psychology, that subconscious is formed by the time they're 7. And if it takes a child to be able to articulate with vocabulary, like what they feel about something their parents are doing, it's too late. So you have to, so I knew going into this, like I'm going to have the discipline, and I knew full well it's going to be tough. But there was also a lot of that where it's like, same kind of thing. You're not going to be fit anymore. Say goodbye to your gym time, say goodbye to this. I'm like, okay, that's just a non-negotiable. That's just not accepted. So, my wife and I built our gym. We built something that we could work out in so that we could still work out together and have baby Thomas there with us. And he's there watching us work out. And mm-hmm. we take our turns, and in between our sets, we're watching the kiddo. We just made it part of our life. But how it's changed things, I mean, it's made it easier for me, because now I truly have something deeper than myself to actually work for. And it's given me a different vantage point. So it's made it significantly easier for me to stay in shape. But also, I mean, from a dietary perspective, like people are like, oh, well, you're just busy, you're on the run. Like, it's so easy to grab convenient food. Quite frankly, Jim, it's easier to intermittent fast now because I'm busy and I'm running around. And so rather than just opt for a candy bar, I'll just intermittent fast that day. It works out great. So, I mean, my physique has changed for the better since having a kid, in my opinion. But it's all perception, I guess.
So you said you built this gym. Is the gym in your house?
So my production studio, where I actually film like my content, that kitchen that you see when you're watching my videos is actually technically, it's really a non-functioning kitchen except for the stove. It's a set, but then the other side of that is my gym. So like at my office, I built a pretty robust gym. No crazy equipment, just barbells and things like that, kettlebells to get stuff done, and some turf. Pretty basic stuff. Mm-hmm. But then we're moving into another house, and we're doing the same thing in our garage now. So it's like half the garage is outfitted as what you need to get done. And I'm all about simplicity. It's like I don't need there was a time where I liked the big box gyms with all the equipment and stuff like that. Now I just want the simple stuff to get done. And that's another thing that's changed since having a kiddo is, I don't think about fitness from just a cosmetic side. I really do think about it functionally. I don't want to be the guy that's bending over and picking up my kid and hurting when I'm rolling around on the ground with my kid.
Right.
So my training has changed. So consequently, the equipment that I need is minimalized. I mean, I can do a lot with medicine balls and dumbbells and kettlebells and not use a ton of weight and still be able to achieve what I'm after.
Like I remember the time, I remember the video before where you're just doing like body weight squats and your son's holding on to the kettlebell and he's just, trying to squat or whatever. And of course they can do perfect squats, right? I mean,
Yep.
So that's really cool. So what is your, so as an entrepreneur, so you have the people that, they go to their day job and they're, the 9-to-5ers or the 8-to-6ers, whatever your work schedule is. But, as an entrepreneur, you're kind of all over the place all the time, right? And you're doing, I don't know who helps you with your social media. Anybody? You have like a team of people?
I mean, I've got a couple of guys that are, kind of my marketing team here. And then I've got, my production team kind of on the video side, but yeah, it's still a pretty small
but
team.
It's still a lot to do though, right? Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
So,
yeah.
As an entrepreneur, it's kind of like almost like the job's never really done or the day's never really done. So what does your typical day look like? And how do you structure, your workouts in or your activity in and your meal prepping in now, especially now that you have just one extra responsibility of being a dad?
Yeah. I mean, my day is the morning is almost always the same. I mean, I get up around 4:30 or 5 a.m. I have a little bit like 15 minutes, 20 minutes of me time just in the morning just to collect myself. I don't really go on my phone or anything the first 15, 20 minutes a day. I mean, I might check something. I'm not, militant about it, but that's really me time. That's time for me to a lot of times I'll just kind of stand in the kitchen, lean on the counter and just sort of like collect my thoughts for the day, for the morning. Cause I'm a morning person and that's my time. That's like my time. So, and then of course it's a little bit of cold brew black coffee and then it's off to the gym or out for a run or doing something. Sometimes the wife's coming with me if the kiddo's up, but a lot of times I'm in the gym by, 5:15 in the morning and getting that done. And that's just a non-negotiable. That's just something that's just part of my day, no matter what.
And what time was that?
5:15 roughly. So if I'm getting up at 4:30, 4:45 in the morning, by the time I get to the gym and have some coffee and stuff, it's 5:15. So I'm getting out of the gym by 6:15 usually. I'm not in there for a long time. I'm in there for 45 minutes to an hour and 15, depending on what I'm doing. Then I come home and it's usually going for a walk with the wife and kid. And, we walk and go get an iced tea from Starbucks or something like, try to have some family time then. And then it cuts into the work time. And I've gotten really good about planning my day the night before. So rather than wake up in the morning and plan my day out, I try to plan my day the night before when I'm exhausted, because when I plan my day out when I'm exhausted, I know that I'm going to set realistic expectations for myself, because a lot of times I'm very high energy in the morning. I'm just wired that way. So I get up in the morning and I want to tackle the world. And I realize that I need to have the discipline to not act on the ideas that I have in the morning. It sounds counterproductive and counterintuitive, but I am so overzealous in the morning. I end up saying yes to way too many things and it ends up being catastrophic. So by the end of the day, I'm a little bit exhausted. I'm worn out. I have enough of the ideas have flown through and filtered out. So I write out the next day's plan. I've gotten really good about segmenting, like when I'm going to have specific family time. And, I'm okay with having small chunks. I've learned to embrace the 10-minute chunks of time that I spend with my wife and kid during the workday. And it's great. And it's all about, again, perception and how you can be happy with that and not just be like, okay, I'm going to be working straight through this period of time. And then I come home at this time and I have to flip a switch. If you're not achieving balance at a high level, then it's not worth achieving it. And what I mean by that is, like, balance doesn't exist. You can't try to be like, I'm going to balance work and then balance my life. It's all one. And it doesn't matter whether you work for somebody or work for yourself. Like, it's still part of your life and you should accept it as part of your life. You shouldn't let it own you, but you need to be giving 100% of whatever you are doing at that point in time to whatever it is you're doing at that point in time. So if I am at that very second, I am with my family, I am with my family. Like,
you're not scrolling on Instagram or checking text messages if they come in, or my emails to set this podcast up.
No, dude, you're good. No, you're all good. That's why sometimes it takes me a while to get back. But you're present. It's just, Exactly. You have to be present. I mean, it's present by the very definition. So it's like when I sit down to do a task, I'm punching away at that, like period, 100% on that. I'm not. And then when I shift over to my family, even if it's for 30 seconds, I'm 100% there. That's what I mean. There's no balance. You're not giving 50% here and 50% there. You're 100% at what you're doing at that very
No,
moment.
were you always like that, or is that something you kind of had to develop and practice? And, were you more scattered before, or you pretty much been good like that?
It's ebbed and flowed. I've always been a pretty disciplined person with that. Even when I was overweight, I was still working out and stuff like that. It was just kind of like I just lost sight of a few things and lost sight of my diet, and was kind of like, oh, I'm lifting a lot. I can just eat whatever I want and I'll just turn to muscle. Yeah, not true. Not true. So I've always been fairly disciplined, and I've always been a morning person, and I've always been very self-aware. So I think, with that, being self-aware has been a big piece of it. Just understanding like what is going to make me tick, because I'm also understanding that not everyone is that way. So I'd say I've always had sort of an inkling to be like that, but not as much as I do now, because now it's either that or it's going to be utter chaos.
So you mentioned before about how if you have a really busy day and you're on the go, it's actually easier because you don't have to stop off and get something. You can just kind of make that your intermittent fasting day. Are you kind of figuring that out on the fly, or because you're taking the time the day before to figure out what your schedule is like for the day, knowing that you're going to be here, there, and you're like, all right, well, this is just an intermittent fasting day? Is that pretty much?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. A little bit of both, because the hard part is that if it's not an intermittent fasting day, there's some things that I have to decide pretty early in the day if it's going to be an intermittent fasting day. In other words, if I go to the gym and then I come back from the gym and I eat breakfast, I've blown it if it's going to be a fasting day. So I can't, it's hard for me to decide midway through the day that I'm just going to fast today. But it's, so usually it's kind of planned out, like, okay, this is going to be a fasting day, but I do know when I'm going to be more busy than others generally. If, for example, my wife has some things that she needs to do and I know that I'm going to need to take the kiddo around while also working, or also I'm filming that day or whatever, then I will usually just say, screw it, I'm going to fast. It just makes life easy. So I'll plan that to be a fasting day. But there are also the situations where, you get up and it's just chaos, the kid's sick, wife's sick, it's just like, okay, forget it. Like, I don't even want to have food be in the equation today. Screw it. It's going to be a fasting day. It makes life a lot easier. It's just when you just remove that variable, life just is so much easier. We're so preconditioned to think we just need to just eat all the time.
So how many days a week do you fast, roughly?
Usually 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any research that shows that, because one of my female clients was telling me that the research shows, or some of the research that she was reading shows, that with females, it's not as effective for intermittent fasting as men, as far as like the weight loss and all that stuff. Any thoughts on that, or have you heard anything like that similarly?
Oh, it's not less effective. It's the fact that they just probably should ease into it a little bit easier, just to make sure that they don't have any hormonal fluctuations. There's just a lot more reproductive hormones that are going on there that are designed to potentially shut down or downregulate if there's periods of time without eating. But I mean, the studies are consistent with men and women, in terms of weight loss with intermittent fasting. So I usually say women should start with shorter term fasts, like 12, 14 hours, and then just ease their way up and make sure they feel okay. But as far as results go, it's fairly
around
neutral.
three times a week, roughly, too.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend they do it all the time.
What about like Monday through Friday and then just the weekends off? That's not like having 5 days straight. Is that good?
So normally I wouldn't really recommend going 5 days straight. I'd usually say, try to have a day in between, just so that you're not getting sort of addicted to that process, and you're actually allowing the fasting to still be sort of that extra catalyst, that extra shock. So I usually say like every other day if you're going to do it frequently.
And that's a really good tip for people that are listening right now that maybe have like you're saying, that busy lifestyle similar to yours, or even crazier, if they're traveling on airplanes or something like that. Actually, travel on airplanes probably wouldn't be a bad day to intermittent fast, because you're not putting a lot of stress on the digestive system, just focusing on having water. And that's pretty much it, right? I mean, and then you're shooting for what, 16, 18 hours roughly?
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Cool. Well, I know we're running a little short on time because you're very busy, but you're very generous with your time too. So we're going to start wrapping it up. But as with every episode, I end with 10 questions for the guest, and those questions are inspired by actually James Lipton and Bernard Pivot. So, you ready for the rundown? All
Yeah,
right, man.
let's rock and roll.
Who is your hero?
So I would say John Muir. I mean, this is all coming off the cuff, right? But John Muir is definitely one of my heroes. Just what he is, just his perspective on life in terms of the outdoors, and it's just that speaks true to me. Very down to earth perspective
Nice.
on everything.
What excites you?
Family. Period.
What turns you off?
A lack of humor.
Nice. What is your favorite sound?
It's changed since having a kid, for sure. I mean, honestly, right now it's definitely the sound of my kiddo's laughter. It used to be weird. It used to be the sound of like iron in a gym, and now I'm like, oh man, that's so weird. I'm like, now I just want to hear my kid giggling and smiling and laughing.
Yeah. What is your least favorite sound?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. Even though I work with first responders and military a lot, I still don't like the sound of sirens. It's just like, honestly, every time I hear it, is my wife okay? Is my kid okay? Someone's hurt somewhere. I don't like that.
Sure. What is your favorite quote or saying?
Yeah, it's simple. It's the one that's tattooed on my shoulder. It's all that waits atop the hill is the top of the hill. And actually the full quote is, money doesn't wait atop the hill. Glory doesn't wait atop the hill. All that waits atop the hill is the damn top of the hill.
I like it. In a couple words, what should a dad be?
Present.
In a couple words, what should a dad not be?
Self-absorbed.
If you could try any other profession, what would it be?
Probably some kind of, I'd say some kind of biochem research world where I could just be introverted and just get lost in flow. I get in such a flow state when I'm doing things that are so detail oriented. So I think something like that would just be interesting.
Nice. It's fitting for you too, because you could geek out on all that cool scientific stuff, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And finally, what would you like to be remembered for?
Let's say, being able to be the person that it's a tough one, but there's a lot of things I'd really like to be remembered for, but I don't put a lot of thought into them because I try not to focus on that too much. But at the end of the day, I like to be the one that is remembered for making people realize that health and these things that seem so difficult and almost lame would actually make it fun, and I guess it comes down to the mission of my business too. Is truly being Thomas was the guy that took these things that we were all afraid of and that we hated hearing in biology class and that we hated hearing from people telling us to get healthy and he actually made it something that is truly fun. And to add to that, I really want to be someone that actually paves the way that changes the way people look at food. And the trickle down effect with what I'm doing with the military and things like now is just if we can just change how we look at food and just not even change necessarily how we eat, but how we look at food, because then it'll have a trickle down effect of how we eat. So I guess it's all about how we look at food and making that fun.
I love that. Thomas, tell everybody where they can find out more about you, what the next steps are, where do you want them to check you out at?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple places. I think, if you're for education, for content, I mean, there's no better place than YouTube. That's obviously just type in my name on, YouTube and you'll be covered up with content. So that's a great place to drive people. ThomasDeLauer.com is, where you can get in touch with me. I have a couple of patents on some interesting products. So PuraThrive, that's PuraThrive.com. So that's, liposomal micellar, turmeric, things like that we've worked years on with our two patents and our technology there. So, you're looking for quality supplements that are actually done in a different form than most people would really even look at, or you're just looking at some interesting technology, you can find that there if you're looking for something more tangible, other than just information.
Nice. I love it. And then Instagram, just at Thomas DeLauer.
Yep.
And it's ThomasDelauer. And then Facebook is Thomas.DeLauer, right? At Thomas.DeLauer. Yep.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thomas, thank you so much for coming on. Anything you want to leave anybody with?
I mean, biggest thing is don't be afraid to go against the grain of what everyone else is saying with the diet. We have barely scratched the surface and barely hit the tip of the iceberg when it comes down to what our bodies are capable of and what our cells are capable of. So if you find what works for you and everyone else says it's wrong, well, then chances are that they're wrong and you're the one that's figured out what works for you, because we're all different. We all have different genes and our bodies are just barely yet to even be researched and discovered.
Nice. Love it. Thank you so much for your time, Thomas. Have a great day.
You betcha.
Bye. Hey guys, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Warrior Dads podcast. If you like this podcast and want to support it, please subscribe, leave comments, and share it with someone you think would benefit from listening as well. Thanks again, and keep on being a warrior dad.